Welcome to another captivating episode of the Changemaker Table. I am your host, Lois Castillo, and today we have the honor of conversating with the dynamic leader who is leaving an inevitable mark in the business world and our communities. Joining us today is Andrea Bibbs, the visionary founder and owner of two remarkable businesses, June Dragonfly and ACB Group, which are dedicated to celebrating diverse brands and empowering entrepreneurs. Andrea, thank you for gracing us with your presence today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that intro.
Yes. I know we call you what? I call you Dre. I just what do you? I wanna is that good?
Yes, my close friends can call me that. So my close friends call me Drea. I mean, close friends can call me Andrea too. And then there's different variations. I get Andrea, I get Andrea, but yeah, that Andrea. Right. And you can call me whatever you want.
I will call you Dre because we met a year. Is it
It's almost a year. It's not even a year. It feels like a lifetime.
Yes. I just want to take a moment and say that this industry that we are in is a gift. It's a stressful industry, but it is a gift because it has given me some of the best relationships of my life. And I consider you and meeting you as a gift.
I feel the same. It's absolutely likewise, especially. And I think that's what makes these connections more special because of the work that we're in. And because oftentimes we are one of the onlys throughout our career, right? So to find that connection and that community and people who bring light and encouragement to your world, like not just your work and professional life, but also your personal life, that is absolutely a treasured gift. So I appreciate you as well, Lois.
Oh, Dre. Since I know you, I want you to introduce yourself and share with the audience a little bit about your background and just tell us about yourself. You are a true change maker. So just share a little bit about who you are.
Sure. I am a woman, a daughter, a wife, a mom, a friend, all of those things. So I'm originally from Canada. So I was born in Montreal, raised in Toronto. I'm a proud Canadian, proud first generation Canadian. And I think that has a lot to do with my story and who I am. My parents are Guyanese background and moved to Canada before I was born. So they're from Guyana, but they also spent their adult years, a lot of their teen and adult years in England, and then moved to Canada and created our life there. So I was very fortunate. Studied radio and TV at a school there, and fast forward, ended up doing an internship at CNN, and then came back to Atlanta a year after I graduated and have been here mostly ever since. I had a year stint overseas, but have had a love for media, have had a love for fashion my whole life, and really making an impact in any way that I can, which now in this second chapter, I feel like, of my career, I'm really trying to follow those passions that I've had since I was a little girl and see if I can survive off of that. But really, it feels like an absolute next chapter for me. So I'm excited with what's to come.
So share a little bit about what is next to come. What inspired you to embark on this path and establish this venture? I think you have, as I mentioned earlier, tell us a little bit about June Dragonfly and the ACB Group. They're connected, but they're so separate.
Right. So as I was saying, I started my career at CNN and spent most of my adult life and career at the parent company of CNN, which was honestly a life-changing experience. It felt like that was definitely it played a huge part in who I was as well. So I spent most of my career there behind the scenes. So first on sort of the sports side, digital side, and then transitioned to the business side, and where I got closer to sales and advertising and branded content, then transitioned to DEI officially, and then transitioned to ad sales marketing. And so last year, after our last merger, had an opportunity to take an exit package and a buyout, and I raised my hand. It was 22 years. I had just celebrated my 22nd anniversary, and I was 22 when I first walked in those doors as an intern, or almost 22.
Wow.
Right. So I felt like it was very symbolic. right? It
Yeah.
was when I was 22, I had like just wide eyes and like all these dreams. And I got to really fulfill a lot of those while I was there. But I think especially after 2020 and all that 2020 held, right?
Yes.
From the racial reckoning to also just COVID happening and me really re-examining my life in a lot of ways, being apart from family for longer than I ever had been, losing close people in our lives and in my life. And it just made me re-examine a lot of things. And so when I was offered that opportunity to leave, I raised my hand. I wanted to really just take some time to figure out what was next. And so the ACB group was really an organic, it was organic in how it started. Really, a friend reached out and was like, hey, I know you got some time now, would you be interested in helping me with a project? Can I hire you to do some PR work and some sponsorship work? And that's honestly how it started. So I said her idea of what she was talking about sounded really great. So I was like, sure, hold on, let's connect in a couple weeks. And in the meantime, I registered my LLC. And like you said, like I've always had this passion to support entrepreneurs. I've always been so inspired by entrepreneurs and what they bring to this world. And for me, kind of being this corporate person for so long, it really inspired me to see them living out their dreams, sometimes full time, sometimes on the side. And so I would support them in any way, whether it was like through my corporate work, whether I could hire them as freelancers or hire them through different contracts, whether it was in my personal life to be able to support them, buy their products, or even I was never a publicist, but I would always try to like suggest people I knew or people I had supported to producers and folks for segments. So I felt like, okay, yeah, I can help. Even though I'd never kind of officially, formally been a publicist, I felt like I knew what writers wanted. And more importantly, I wanted to make sure her story and what she was trying to do got out into the world. So that was my kind of first paying client. I'd had some non-paying clients that I'd been working with. And honestly, that was my first. And it led to just more people. And I was working with a lot of people, those people that I'd supported in the past. So the ACB group, I say we're a boutique PR media consulting firm, but really, I think the power behind it is really trying to share those stories because I believe in these brands and I believe that other people should hear about them. And so that led to really the birth of June Dragonfly, which again had been an idea I'd had for 10 plus years. I'd wrote it down, but it's just hard when you're working a full-time job sometimes, and especially with conflict of interest and things like that. So I really felt like, and I had kind of toyed with it in different ways, but so June Dragonfly is a curated gifting company. So we provide corporate gifting as well as individual gifting options as well for folks. And I had my first pop-up yesterday. So I'm also doing pre-curated items.
Yay!
And so the focus is women-owned businesses and also diverse founded brands. So those are primarily and really only the sources that I'm using for my gifts. And people have been really gravitating to it, which I'm forever grateful for. And this is truly an example. I was in business on the corporate side for 20 plus years, but entrepreneurship is such a different beast. You and I have talked about that, right? It is such a different beast. And I just jumped into it. I just said, I'm going to do it. Because if I sat there and tried to research, it probably would have taken forever, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is also, it's that season for me as well to just not wait till I'm ready and to take these risks and to jump in, to start messy and to learn as I go. And I appreciate honestly everyone that I've worked with and folks who've given me grace along the way as I'm figuring things out. But my heart is there and I'm excited to live out these dreams for as long as I can. So thank you for having me on here to talk about it too.
Of course, Dre. Thank you for sharing because I think it's important that you talk about that journey and saying that these things have lived with you for so long, but having, I want to highlight you. Not only were you a full-time in the corporate space, you're a mom and you're a wife and you're a daughter and you have a family and you have been slaying those roles. And then you had an opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to take a risk on me and live out my next chapter and define it. And you took that and you stepped out and established. So you said, even as my own entrepreneurial journey. I'm going to help other entrepreneurs see their story. So you're sharing your stories with others. That takes grit and tenacity. I love how one venture birthed another one. Share with us something that stands out in the achievement and that moment on this journey. You said you had your pop-up shop. What was
Yeah.
like, I'm about to do this? Like,
Yeah. And honestly, I did not sleep. So I was up for 24 hours getting boxes together, and like I got into a groove. Like, it was, but what stands out, I'm proud of myself. I mean, this is something, like I said, it was a kernel of an idea, and that kernel has sat in notebooks on my computer in GoDaddy's website with like I purchased URLs. I've been paying for some URLs for like literally 9-10 years because I was like, I need to save it because I'm going to do it. And so I'm proud of myself for just going. I think so often, especially sometimes when we're in these corporate spaces, right? Sometimes our confidence can get shot. And I'll admit, when I left, even though it was my choice, my confidence was down. I was like, who am I? Right? Because, and I've said this before, a lot of people would define me as Andrea from CNN, Andrea from Turner, Andrea from Warner Media, and that was what would follow. And I was really, really focused on being defined as myself. I want people to know me as someone who is trying to uplift other people, who's trying to like really bring some good into this world, right? And I think what the push for June Dragonfly happened shortly after my birthday too. I'm approaching 50 in a couple of years, and
don't look a day over 25, but
thank
okay.
you, thank you. I thank my mama. But the thing is, you're faced with just sort of like that next chapter, right? That next part of your life. And I've seen a lot of folks, amazing people who have touched my life, pass away this year as well. And that really pushed me to start this. I said, even if it's like I just sell 10-15 boxes every quarter, that's fine. Like, even if it's just on the side, even if I have to end up going back to work or to a corporate job, I just want to know that I did that, to prove that to myself. So I'm proud of just these past few weeks, like really operating without this detailed business plan or detailed roadmap. I just started and got advice and tips, and YouTube and all these things have helped me. But to actually execute this pop-up, and to be able to have product there to sell some products. But what I was most proud about was just being able to share all of the products that were in my boxes, all women owned. I know all of those founders. So I was so excited to be able to share their stories. So in a way, I'm still their publicist, even though if I'm not their official publicist. I am so excited to see them win. I'm so excited for people to say, I love this card brand. I never knew there was a Black owned card brand that had such amazing, and I was like, yes, she's great, because all these people too, like I said, I have been a consumer of. I found them through different ways, right? And so honestly, that's what got me into media. I always wanted to be that person, even as a little girl, putting people on to like music or to fashion or to different things. And in a way, like that's still so deep inside of me. And to be able to like really kind of live in my dream, which I felt like that yesterday. And some of my close friends and family saying to me, you are in your element. It didn't feel hard. It felt like natural. And so I'm just wanting to share this story too, my story, because I know there's lots of people out there, especially women, who it feels hard to define who you are outside of motherhood, right? Outside of maybe who you are in a workplace. And I really have been trying hard to define myself for who is Andrea. And so this feels like me. And so I'm proud of that, to be able to do it, and to, no matter what happens, I'm proud that I got this out into the universe, out into the world.
I love that you are creating your story and sharing your story as you share others, because I think it's something sometimes we often allow fear or our own
Yes.
fear to keep us from being vulnerable and just doing it. And I'm glad that you knew it's always been in you. The fact that you bought GoDaddy URLs and held yourself accountable, and you did it at the right time for you, and you're just doing it. And it's not always going to be perfect, but you're learning from it and you're taking it advice, but you're not you're not holding back and you're sharing yourself and you're open and you're curious. And I know the pop-up shop was probably amazing, and I hope you got some sleep after. So you've had some success. As you reflect on your journey, what has been some some of the challenges, and how have you overcome those, particularly in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, I think I touched a little bit on it, just the confidence piece, right? And it's honestly also like unlearning some bad corporate habits too,
Okay.
right? You have to hold yourself accountable when you're an entrepreneur. And for me, the biggest challenge, which continues to be a challenge, you talk about fear, like it's something that I have to conquer every single day. Sometimes it's easier than others, sometimes it's not, right? Because I can see when I self-sabotage, and the self-sabotage is really intertwined with that whole confidence piece, that feeling like, am I good enough? Should I be doing this? And that's been honestly my biggest challenge, where sometimes I don't want to move forward with a potential client because I'm scared that I might not be able to give them what they need, or scared to move forward with a project because I'm scared I'm not going to be able to deliver, right? Even though I know that I can, and I've proved it to myself over the years. So I'd say that's been the biggest challenge, right? And to be able to really give myself grace when things don't work out the way they should, or when I get in the way, like we talk about blocking our blessings, when I get in my own way. That's been the biggest challenge. But what's really helped me is having this community, right? This community of fellow entrepreneurs, this community of people who knew me before, people who have met me after, really pushing me and often saying, look, you can do it, I'll help you, or just giving me grace when I don't get something done, because I'm the one that can beat myself up more than ever. Because I think in the corporate world, I'm used to delivering, you're used to doing things quickly, but you also have a team half the time. You also have like, you're in this structure that supports all that. I am a team of really one, with sometimes my husband to support me, sometimes my kids to support me, pulling in other people now and then, but really it's on me. And so trying not to get overwhelmed and trying to also have boundaries, because in this work you can work 24/7, right? And I can't continue to do that. So trying to have more boundaries. But again, I think the biggest thing for me is giving myself grace and pushing forward despite things that may come up.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that just being self-aware of boundaries are important, giving yourself grace, having a community that can support you through it all. I think so many times you see entrepreneurs and you just see the success, and some will share a little bit of the
Right.
journey, but I think it's important that you have that support system. And I think we take for granted that self-reflection. And I don't think we give ourselves grace when you're on this journey. And it's such a pivotal moment to keep going and to stay on this journey and to stay committed to the work.
It really is. It really is. You know that now.
Yes, it is. I think like you said, you can be your own worst critic. I tell myself, no one can be harder on me than I can be on myself. No one can tell me what could have been better than me. Like, I don't
Right.
know, like your feedback is great, but I have all the feedback to me. Um, as you think about this and the work, I think one of the things I love about your story is that both of your businesses has a true impact on society. So can you paint a picture of how the ACB group and Junefire poised to make a positive impact on society, particularly in the realm of a small business and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, my goal is for all the brands that I have in my boxes at Jean Dragonfly, and all of the businesses that I represent through the ACB group. My goal is that they're not small for long. And it was actually one of my clients that said this to me. She's like, I'm just a business that happens to be small right now,
I
right?
love
And
that.
so the impact that I want to have is I want to continue to see them on the front pages of our local papers. I want to continue seeing them featured on TV, on the news, on amazing programs. I want to see celebrities using their products. I want to see them front and center. I want to see their dreams realized even more than they are right now. And that's really like where I can see the impact, but also to help the next generation of entrepreneurs as well. Even though the ACB group is only not even a year old, I wanted to be some intention around it, right? So another dream that I'd started this list, this kind of like dream list, to-do list,
I love
before
that.
I actually left corporate. And I wanted to accomplish some stuff before I went back to a corporate job. I was like, I want to do some of these things. And one of the things on my list was to really establish a scholarship at my alma mater, which is Toronto Metropolitan University. And I was able to do that this year. So to show that as like a small business, right, that I could have impact. And it was so important for me to do this. And like I had tried a little bit in the past and it dropped off. And people, even my mom said to me, this is something you probably could have done when you were an executive making 6 figures, making a lot of money, and you're doing this now. And I said, no, I think it's even more impactful and even more special to be able to establish this now in my own name, in the name of my company. So I'm giving back to a 4th-year university student who's a Black woman and who's a student athlete. And so I'm really excited to be able to offer them advice as they are about to embark on their post-university career life. And whether it's entrepreneurship or whatever, I want to be there to support them, not only financially, but also through mentorship and honestly connecting them with people, because that's been the thing that's been so impactful on my career journey. It's people, it's the relationships and how people have helped me. And so I want to make sure that I was able to give back, because again, I think sometimes we have these thoughts about what success looks like or what you can do at certain times. And I thought like you had to give tens of thousands of dollars to be able to establish a yearly scholarship. And that wasn't the case. And so I'm so grateful to be able to do this and hopefully to increase my impact over the years. But for right now, I have a 5-year commitment to give this scholarship to a 4th-year Black student athlete, Black female student athlete. So I'm excited about that. And that's honestly one of the things I'm most proud of in terms of creating these companies for myself, is to define what they look like, to define the purpose. I may not have employees yet, but I want them to know that this is what my company stands for. And I want my clients to know that too. So I'm excited to see what I can do with June Dragonfly. But right now, my goal is to be able to select certain women-based organizations to give some of my proceeds to. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well.
Trey, I love that your organizations and the companies that you're building are built on impact and creating change, not only within the business realm, but into communities, and you're giving back. And I love that you're shaping it. It's built with inclusion in mind because of that. It's built with you in mind. You talked earlier about unlearning some of the bad habits that you learned from the structures you were in, and creating a scholarship that represent who you are and giving it back, and to know that you're impacting a young woman's life and giving back to the community. It's inspiring. And I love that you're like, this is just who my company is. And the fact that I can't wait to see and watch this list. I think everyone creates bucket lists of all the things I want to do so I can expand, but you have a dream list of how I want to change the world. And that's just a testament to the woman I know, the woman that I have come to consider a kindred spirit and a sister in change. You are a driving force. So when we think about all the things that you have done, and you've shared so many nuggets and gems, what advice would you like to impart on individuals aspiring to make a meaningful difference in their prospective fields, or just want to create change? What would you share with the audience?
I'd say to really think about what matters to them, to start with sort of that core of what they believe in. And I feel like that will lead to the change that they want to make. For me, I've always been passionate about sports, and especially women in sports. And so when I was thinking about giving back, like I wanted to be really intentional, because at first it's like, you can do anything, you can give it to anyone, like you can define it. And sometimes, I was really thinking, I was like, do I want it to be all student athletes? Do I want it to be all? But what was tugging at my heart was knowing the struggles of especially Black female athletes, and being one in high school, and most of my undergraduate life, I ran track and played a little basketball, but track was sort of the thing that I wanted to do. And it was not easy. Right. So that led me to where I was. And so what I would say again, it's just really think about what really drives you, like what would make you excited to see a difference made, right? Like, and something that's connected to you, because then you have no choice but to speak passionate about it. You have no choice to think about that problem in a different way and to really think about ways to really creatively solve it. So for me, I think it's just really get to that idea of what's really important to you and then start from there and see where the impact can lead you to.
Great advice. It starts within. When you look back on your journey, are there any key lessons you gleaned that you wish you would have known initially embarking on your ventures?
I mean, there's so many. There's so many. I mean, there's so many things sort of like on the business side, like just in setting things up that I wish I knew. But I think really at the core of it, because even though I still pushed forward and I did it, I think I could have done it earlier, but I was really afraid. And so the advice that I would give to folks, especially if they're currently in corporate and are having these dreams about doing some other things, it's just start. And that's some of the advice I've given people. I'm like, create your LLC if you know what you want to do, or even just create your LLC in your name. That's something that I could have done years ago, so that when I left, it would have been maybe a little easier. I wouldn't have had the 2-3 week journey of kind of doing all that paperwork and figuring stuff out, but just really being intentional about starting part of your journey, even if you don't feel like you're ready. And I think that's the biggest piece, because when I was in corporate, I was thinking, oh my gosh, like looking at entrepreneurs, I'm like, oh my gosh, they got their stuff together. They got their business plans. I thought everyone had their MBAs. It used to like really intimidate me, because I'm like, I don't want to go back to school. And there are people who are like well-spoken. They can like really sell you on their business. They can do all these things. And I'm learning all that. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with starting messy. I'm actually about to launch the website for the ACB group soon. But what I learned, so I have a company helping me with that. But with June Dragonfly, if you look at junedragonflybox.com, I created that. I don't have to wait for it to be greatly curated and like this, what I want it to look like, but it can start where it is. And so I've created sort of a landing page right now, and we'll build towards something better. But that's what I learned even from starting the ACB group to this, like, you can just put something out there and that's okay, and to stop thinking about like how things look and to just go. So
I love it. Just go.
Made sense.
No, it did. I think just go. I mean, millions of businesses started without landing pages.
Right.
Like my son was like, Mom, you're older than Google. So
yeah. Right. And Bailey, my daughter said the same, like, well, so how did you find out things? I was like, encyclopedias, the newspaper.
The library.
I was such a newspaper nerd. Right. I love the library.
Remember the phone book when it'd get thrown on your thing and you would go through in the yellow pages?
I love the smell of the yellow pages. I love to sit down and go through it.
So just there's no excuse not to start, just to go.
No. And I screenshotted like someone on Instagram had this post about all these people, like how old they were when they started their companies. So it was like, it had, I think, Vera Wang, like it had like people in fashion and media and tech who were like 60, 49, 39. And what we were talking a little bit about manifestation earlier, but sometimes I truly believe you have to see things. And I screenshot it and I added my name to the bottom of the list.
Yes, you have to.
Yeah. And I sent it to my friend. I think I'm going to post it too at some point, but like, yes. I just was like, I see it. And it again, it feels like, and I actually heard, I went to the Fearless Fund conference earlier this year, and Jessica Alba was actually talking about like when she started Honest, and like people knew her as this actress, right? So when she's going into these rooms, trying to get funding for Honest, trying to talk about like, why she wants to build this like organic baby line and brand, and people were looking at her crazy, like, yeah, okay, but I want to take your autograph, right? Like, but I want your autograph, or tell me about that. And she was like, it took like delusional confidence, and I believe like that's such a like an amazing phrase to describe how I feel. Sometimes it just feels like, it does feel like delusional confidence, that you have to push forward despite your background, like I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I come from a family of like hardworking people. And so they may not have been entrepreneurs, and they may not understand this journey I'm on now, but my parents, I absolutely love them for supporting me and saying, you can do this. They were so proud of me being at CNN all those years, especially as immigrant parents, like my daughter works at CNN. But now to hear them proud of establishing my scholarship, and that was part of it too. Like I wanted our name to be a part of that. My maiden name is part of it. So, but also for them to be proud of what I'm doing now means so much to me as well. So I will continue to move forward with that in the back of my mind and have that delusional confidence to say, like, I may have never done this type of proposal, but I'm going to do it and it's going to be fine, because there's lots of people out there who do that, who may not look like us, who have that confidence. So we have to do it for ourselves. We gotta move forward.
I love that, Trey. I just want to say thank you immensely for sharing your incredible journey, your profound insight, and the inspiring work you're doing at June Dragonfly and the ACB group. Your unwavering commitment to diversity, empowering communities, and building diverse brands and sharing their stories. To our cherished listeners, remember that transformation begins with a vision and the first step. Continue pushing boundaries. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode of the Changemaker Table.